It's moving along at idle speeds, nice and quiet. You can't even hear it. Meet the Be Quiet PureRock 3 CPU air cooler. Special thanks to Be Quiet for sponsoring today's video, but as always, any opinion expressed is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this cooler or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Take a look at the retail box and packaging. They walk you through key tech specs right on the side, and you can learn more about Be Quiet as a company, so very detailed and thorough. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, you have your product literature with full and detailed setup instructions for both Intel and AMD installations, depending on which socket you use. It supports the latest and greatest from Intel, the 1851 and 1700 sockets. So, Intel instructions right there, step by step. They continue on the back side. Then we have your AMD installation instructions right here, AM4 and AM5. Very detailed. We even have a chart walking us through all the included parts and components. Moving along, we have our 4 spacers, our 2 clips for the fan, our Intel kit, our AMD kit, and we have one included 120mm fan. Specifically, this is the PureWings 320mm fan. So take a look at that spinning. Very satisfying to watch that. Super quiet already. True to their name. We have our airflow indicator on both sides of the fan, and then Be Quiet's logo and branding. And we have our PWM connector right there. 4-pin. And then last but not least, the cooler itself. Be Quiet's logo and branding up at the top. Take a look at it from the side, get a feel of the profile. There's our heat pipes. We can see those at the bottom. And we already have pre-applied thermal paste right there, which is great to see. Now let's go ahead and get this installed. The CPU we're going to be using in our test bench today is the Intel i9-13900K. So we grab the Intel kit here, and you follow a similar procedure for both Intel and AMD, but they are a little bit different. But the first thing we have to do is build our mounting back plate. So we have ours assembled right here for the LGA 1700 socket, which is what the CPU is. It's also configured for the 1851 socket from Intel, which is the latest and greatest, but it's very easy to configure this. What you do on the back is figure out if you're 1 or 2. So 1700 and 1851 is going to be in the 1 position. And if you look on here, it's clearly labeled 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, and then on the side we have this little lip or tooth in the bracket itself that then we line up our metal piece here in the 1 or 2 position. And then this side you take the little rubber washer and put it down and repeat that all 4 times. So clearly labeled. Next step is to go ahead and put this through the back side of our motherboard. We have 4 holes right here where this will line up. So it should look just like this, where we have all 4 poking out and through. Now it's time for the next step, where we're going to take these guys, which are clearly labeled in the up position, and we're going to put them through each one of the metal pieces sticking up. So it should look just like this. Next, we need to take the bracket piece right here. We're going to line it up on both sides. There's an arrow pointing towards the CPU, so make sure you have that pointed the correct way, and then it'll go 1 to 1 and 1 to 1 there, since that's how our bracket was configured for our particular socket. That all fits in. Now we take these pieces and we fasten them in place, 1 for each corner of the bracket. Now we can add our cooler. Remove the protective covering. We already have our pre-applied thermal paste, and then it'll just line up like you see right here. Those screw holes will attach to the threads coming up. So just gently place it and start tightening down each side. And keep tightening until you feel resistance. You won't be able to tighten it any further. Now we can add our fan. When installing the fan, just make sure you have the airflow indicators properly aligned to get the right flow that you want for your cooler. So in our case, when we clip this on, we want the air flowing from this direction through the cooler. So fresh, cooler air here, and then the hot air exhausting out the back. And then you can reposition these clips as needed, but this should be fine for us by default. Just lining up like so. And then you just clip it right in place on the cooler. Same thing on the other side. And it'll snap right in just like that. Plenty of clearance here for our RAM. We don't have any in the extra slots. If we did, we could just notch that up a little bit higher as needed to rest right above our RAM. But there we go. All right, take a look at everything installed and powered on right here. We have our connection option there for the CPU fan. It's moving along at idle speeds, nice and quiet. Listen in. You can't even hear it. Super silent. And here's a listen in with the fan maxed out at 100. It's moving a lot of air, and honestly, that's really not that loud. So we're left with one burning question that we really need to cool. How does this cooler stack up against the competition? We'll be looking at it through the lens of cost to get a better feel for price to performance. In this case, it's 55% below the average cooler that we've tested. So with that being said, should we expect less than half the results? Well, let's go ahead and find out. First up is max TDP measured in watts. So if we do a little quick math here, what? Should we be at like 125 watts if we're only getting half the performance because we're only paying for half of it? Well, that's not true. We come in at 190, which is very respectable compared to the average of 253. And we get this question all the time. Will this work with my CPU? We've put some popular models on screen so you can get a better feel for if this cooler will fit your cooling needs, whether that's Intel or AMD, the latest and greatest, or a couple previous generations. Now, there are going to be some physical compromises to get that price so aggressive, and that's going to be the heat pipes. So this design only has 4 heat pipes, whereas the average is 5.4. But really, 5.4 is not a real amount of heat pipes that you get on a cooler. So that tells us that a lot of the coolers that we test actually have 6 heat pipes instead of 4. That's usually something, though, that's going to cost more money because copper is expensive. But how do those 4 heat pipes hold up? First, looking at idle speeds using our Intel 13900K CPU, we come in only 3 degrees Celsius above average, very respectable still. Moving along to 65 watts, we come in 5 degrees Celsius above average. Same story for 95 watts. You guessed it, same story for 120 watts. And then we have a little bit more separation at 170 watts. Now we're up 7 degrees above the average. And then when we hit full throttle, 100% utilization, we do hit that 100 degrees Celsius barrier cap, whatever you want to call it, the built-in protection to protect our CPU. And when everything's maxed out, we get 279 watts, which is a little bit below average. And same thing with our speed, 4.9 gigahertz instead of 5.2. But none of that is drastically worse than the competition, again, for that price to performance ratio, the lens that we're looking at this data through. Moving along to noise, this is going to be how loud the cooler is compared to the competition. Everything's measured in decibels. We come in 2 decibels below average. The lower the value, the quieter your cooler will be. So Be Quiet's living up to its name already. And that same story holds true with our max noise with the fan revved up to 100% utilization. We still come in a couple decibels below average, so everything runs nice and quiet. So where's that leave us in regards to our Be Quiet PureRock 3 CPU cooler? Let me share with you my final thoughts. This is a quiet CPU cooler that's going to be very capable and not cost you a lot of coin.